Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today's guest is a very high-level competitor. Those people who are in the know will most likely know his name, and those who don't, I guess you must be living under a rock or something, because this guy's probably one of the most active competitors in Australia. His list of accolades is almost too much for me to list here as an introduction, but just in a snapshot, he recently won his bout at Subversion. He's the 2024 double gold brown belt world masters champion. I think he's won other adult world's level medals as well. He's the current Pan Pacs champion. He's all over the place. He's the coach at Kumite in Sydney. He's a black belt under AOJ, and we're looking forward to chatting with none other than Josh Allsopp. Thanks for joining us, Josh.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mate, after all those accolades, it's time to wrap the show up. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, I head off. I think I'm done with my career, actually. That's a lot more than I thought I've done.
I remember seeing you at the 2024 World Masters, and you looked so sharp, and it wasn't a surprise to any of us who were there watching you to see you walk away with the double golds, mate. So that was fantastic. We want to touch on your competitive side of jiu-jitsu for sure, and your coaching side and your gym and all those sorts of things. But, mate, as a bit of an origin story, how did you get into jiu-jitsu, and was it always martial arts, or did you have things before jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, it's actually it's a funny story, actually. I was never athletic at all before I did jiu-jitsu. I never stuck to a sport for longer than like a couple months at a time. I was like big into video games. That was my thing. So I was always like video games from as early as I remember, just sort of influenced by my older brother. And then I was actually like doing it at a professional level. So I had like a contract with like a media platform back in the day, Machinima. From the time I was like, I think 17, I got that. And so I was doing that. And then the way that jiu-jitsu came about was I actually won tickets to go watch a UFC through the whole gaming thing. I won front row tickets in towards the end of 2012. And so took a buddy to go watch the UFC, and I met a few fighters there that were kind of sitting close by to me, and ended up sort of like at the after party having like a little play tussle with one of the amateur fighters. And he was like, "Oh, what do you train?" And I was like, I don't train." He's like, "You should absolutely train. You'd be really good at this." And so I kind of like, I didn't get into it straight away after that. I was sort of like, it was in my mind. But then after I finished high school, I was really bored. I didn't know what I was doing, anything like that. So I was like, oh, I'll go try this jiu-jitsu thing out. So I found on Gumtree a guy that was listing classes out of his garage, and I just went and showed up. It was just like me, him, and his blue belt son, and I did a class, and he basically just butted me up and told me that I could be really good at it if I keep training, and I lapped it up, joined the gym, and then just kept going with it. Loved it.
Was the UFC over here, mate, or was it in America?
No, it was in Sydney. Sydney. It was Martin Campman versus someone. It was like a UFC on Fox back in the day.
Yeah.
So I was like sitting next to like, there was like Jake Shields. Like I didn't even know who these people were at the time. I have photos of them on my phone just because someone was like, "That guy's a fighter." And I was like, "Can we get a photo?" So there was like, Jake Shields. I feel like Volkanovski was like close by. Like Mark Hunt was there. Like, it was just kind of crazy. I was amongst all those guys, and the reporters were right in front of me. It was pretty cool.
So you're actually, even though you say you didn't do any sports or any martial arts, from what you're saying, it sounds as though you do have pretty much like a natural ability then with jiu-jitsu.
So I've got 3 older brothers. They're all between like 9 and 12 years older than me. So I was always just, I wasn't shy for a scrap. I also grew up in Blacktown, which is, I don't know what the like Melbourne equivalent is, but maybe like Frankston or something. But I just grew up around a much older crowd, and I was never really one to shy away from conflict or anything like that. I kind of did stuff like, my mates had I had a trampoline in my backyard growing up, and me and my mates would like wrestle and fight and stuff like that. But I'd say when I say I wasn't an athlete, I never did anything competitively on an athletic level. So competing was a very like slow grind for me to actually build up any sort of level of competitive drive or anything in that context. So, yeah.
So, Josh, you start in the garage. You meet old mate in the garage with his son.
Yeah.
Where all good jiu-jitsu stories start, I suppose.
Yeah.
And how long are you training with this guy? Like, do you still know him? Is he still training? Like,
he's still around. I did maybe like a couple months there. I was doing like once a week. I didn't have a license at the time, I think. So it was like hard for me to get there. Or I think I had just gotten my license and like crashed my car, so I didn't have a car. But I was doing like once a week with him. His name's Parviz Lazari. He's still around. I think he teaches at Rivals Gym now in Castle Hill. But after that, I was kind of just seeking more training. So I started trying out a few different gyms. There was like Temple Dogs was a gym that was around, owned by Chris Hoy. No longer exists, but actually quite a few local Australian MMA fighters came out of that place. They're still around today. I went to Universal Combat Academy under Simon Farnsworth, was the gym I ended up sort of sticking at for getting my blue belt from. That was like, looking back, that was such an amazing little hidden gem. There's guys that went and competed at ADCC. There were guys there that like ended up having like pro MMA careers, all that sort of stuff. And the only thing there was just twice a week. They were sharing space with the judo hall, so it was just Monday, Fridays. So up until like 2016, I only trained a maximum of twice a week. So the first like 3 years of my jiu-jitsu was very casual for me. But looking back, yeah, I'm pretty fortunate that I was around some pretty spectacular people for the level that existed at the time.
Josh, it seems as though you've progressed pretty quickly through the ranks and with your jiu-jitsu. How did you maximize those 2 sessions a week? Because there are a lot of our listeners that are in the same boat that can only get to training, 2 or 3 times a week, and maybe they're sort of struggling with that. What advice would you have for those people?
Well, I was cross-training a lot, so I was going around and visiting gyms because there was a limited schedule where I was at, and obviously I had a job, like a shitty retail job at the time, so maybe there was like a Monday or a Friday I was working, so I couldn't even go there. So I would go other days to another gym that doesn't exist now. It's called FFC. That's where I met Luke Martin from Sydney West. He was a brown belt at the time, and he was teaching there, so I did some classes with him. That's when I met Adam Asuncao, who's still around. He had a really solid MMA career. He still coaches now. He introduced me to AOJ Online, actually. He was like, "Oh, you're quite flexible." I think I saw like a video on YouTube of Delahiva. I was using Delahiva, and he's like, "I've got this AOJ Online subscription. Here's the username and password. You should go watch some stuff, and I think it would suit you." And so just through meeting people that are obviously like super dedicated to it, and they saw a passion for it in me, and then they encouraged it. That's kind of how that happened. And so obviously supplementing the training, I was, like I said, I had this shitty retail job where I didn't have to do anything. So I'd just be on the computer all day, and I'd watch the AOJ Online videos, and I watch YouTube, and so I was kind of like mentally in it just as much as I was physically in it through that lack of actual volume of training.
Did you find your retention of watching like those sort of online AOJ videos, that your retention of it was good? Like, could you watch an hour and a half of, different things and then go to the gym 2 days later and do it? Or, I mean, I'm like, okay, here's a 3-minute clip. All right, I watch that. I drill it 15 times. And then 2 days later, I'm like, shit, what is this, Or is your retention with that stuff really good?
Yeah, so I'd say if I have any sort of like natural talent, it's in my ability to absorb information and kind of reduce it down to the efficient stuff, like being able to pick what is useful from the information I get and actually being able to absorb it and reach a certain level of foundation from that information. Like that's the thing that I think made me good at gaming back when I was playing like Call of Duty and stuff. I would watch videos online on YouTube. I would be able to kind of pick out like the patterns of what was working, what made people good at it. And I felt like I was kind of good at building on that myself. So, and through that, I think that's also why I have a good affinity for teaching, is I can kind of understand, or I have to know why the things I'm doing work. I have to understand like the reasons why the things that I'm doing are successful, and that obviously allows me to teach, but it obviously allows me to understand the techniques beyond the level of just like, this is step 1, step 2, step 3.
You mentioned that you didn't come to jiu-jitsu with a naturally competitive drive, but you've sort of found it. How did that happen? How did you manage to sort of turn on that competitive side of things? Because you do compete a lot now.
Yeah, so not being competitive is probably the wrong phrase. Like, I was always competitive in the context of like, I wanted to be good at whatever I did. So obviously I was like playing video games competitively, but I meant more like on a like an athletic discipline side. It wasn't until I went to AOJ in 2018, and honestly even later than that, before I fully understood what it takes to be very, very successful in something, when it, like, especially on a physical level, because there's a lot more than just like, video games. I don't know if you've seen all the professional video game players. They're not exactly like physical specimens. When it comes to sport, you have to have all of those skill sets of being good at something on a technical level, but there's also like, you got to take care of your body. You have to sleep get a good amount of sleep. You have to show up more consistently. So that was the side that really took me being exposed to people that are successful in that context. And I had to be exposed to it a lot. Like, I thought I was trying to emulate what they were doing, but then you just keep diving deeper. It took me a long time to understand what it takes to actually be like successful athletically, competitively.
What about your first competition or competitions? So when did you first compete, and then how did they go for you, and what were your sort of takeaways from them, if you can remember that?
Definitely, yeah. So the very first competition I did, I don't remember I don't remember it too vividly, because I think I'd only been training for like 4 or 5 months. It was when I first went to Universal Combat Academy, and obviously those guys were competed a lot on the local level, and they convinced me to sign up for Abu Dhabi trials. And back in those days, the white belt and blue belt divisions were combined. So this is like 2013. So yeah, I jumped into that, and I went up against, I think it was a blue belt. I can't really remember. I got my guard passed immediately, and I just got held down in side control for 5 minutes. And then I was like, oh, that was cool. And then I just suppressed that memory immediately after. I learned nothing from it. And then it wasn't until about a year after that, where I actually had any semblance of jiu-jitsu, that I entered a AFBJJ New South Wales comp. And that's when I was able to win. I had like 10 matches on the day, gi, no gi, and I was able to win all of those and get double gold. That's the one I more remember vividly.
And tell us about going to AOJ. So you mentioned that you went there 2018. What was it, the online stuff that took you there, or what made you take that? And tell us a little bit more about your time there.
Absolutely. So the 2018 trip to AOJ, that was my first time ever leaving the country, other than like random cruise ship, Vanuatu Island sort of thing. So I never really traveled. I was just had like a year and a half of having my first like real full-time job, earning a bit of money. So I was like, I want to go on a holiday. And so so obviously through watching, I was really into jiu-jitsu at that point. I was watching a lot of AOJ online. And I was like, well, how about I go to California, and I'll go train at AOJ, and I'll just experience some of America. And I registered for a comp as well, so I timed it up with like the American Nationals in Las Vegas. And so yeah, it was more, the mentality was like, this is a holiday, but I'm also going to like train and compete a little bit. And then yeah, I went over there. I just realized that I had no idea what jiu-jitsu really was. I'd never experienced anyone high level up until that point. I thought the black belt at my gym was like the pinnacle of jiu-jitsu, and I was just like, wow, like if I'm ever going to actually be good at this. And at that point, I was like, I think eventually I had a dream of like opening a gym and teaching. I was like, well, I've got to, I got to start learning this sort of thing. So I spent a bit of time there training. I also tried every single American fast food that was available to me. That was kind of the real motivation of that trip, if I'm honest. I competed at American Nationals, and I did okay. I got third, but obviously, just got beat by someone that was like who's still around today. His name's he goes by Gumby Jiu Jitsu anyway. So he's like been on Who's Number One and stuff, UFC, BJJ. He beat me by a De La Riva footlock that I didn't even know existed at the time, and yeah, and then through that I was like, this is really cool. I met some friends there from AOJ, and they sort of convinced me to move over there and spend some time there.
So how did you then go with the coaches of AOJ? So you are based for the most part over here, and you're obviously an AOJ black belt. So was that something in your mind where you're like, hey, these guys are legit. That's where I want my belts to come from. Did you sort of put that into your focus? Not chasing the belt, but chasing, like, you want to be learning from the best.
Yeah. So there was a certain point where I was like, one day I'm going to open a gym. This is going to be my career.
Yeah.
I sort of had some bad experiences in terms of like participating in certain gyms. I experienced bad leadership. I sort of always had to. I felt like I didn't get the experience that was potentially available. So I kind of had this dream of, one day I want to open a gym, and I want to provide the experience that I always wish was available to me when I was starting. And to me, like I said, I felt like I had to go somewhere else to get good training and get the answers to the questions I had. And I was like, well, I don't want to have a gym where people feel like they have to do that. I would love to provide the experience where I can just answer any question that anyone has. If they want to be a world champion, like maybe I could take them all the way there without having them have to invest a bunch of money and go overseas and that sort of stuff. So I was like, if I'm going to tell people that I can provide that for them, I need to be able to do it. And I need to live that life. I need to maybe, not necessarily like be a black belt world champion, but I need to be around those people and see what it takes and absorb as much as I can if I'm genuinely going to tell people that I could potentially do that for them. So I saw it as my college, my university experience. You can either go get a degree from the Western Sydney University, a bachelor's, or you can get a PhD from Yale. And I was like, I'm gonna go get that PhD from Yale. So that was my logic.
And so you got your black belt from AOJ, from the Mendez brothers. Tell us about that day. What was that like to get your black belt there?
Yeah. So by that point, I got my brown belt it was like 2022 or 2023. I'd been a purple belt for a long time at that point because I'd obviously got my purple belt. I had left the gym that I got my purple belt from, and I didn't really have a home gym for years. I was training at AOJ when I was in America. In Australia, I was at I was going everywhere: Sydney West, West Side, all these different places. But I didn't really have like a coach. So I'd been a purple belt, I think, for like 4 years, and I had a conversation with Guy. Where I was like, hey, I've been a purple belt for ages. Like I hadn't spent a lot of time at AOJ at that point, really. Like I was still a visitor. And he was like, yeah, your level's definitely there. Like, we typically don't promote people that don't live here, but I'm happy to do it for you. And so I got the brown belt then. And then, yeah, like around that time, they really weren't promoting anyone that wasn't like a full-time student there. I think, I don't even know the last person that got a belt from AOJ that wasn't living there. But I just made it undeniable. Like my logic was like, well, if I just AOJ used to cop a lot of flack for sandbagging back in the day with their junior students. And they weren't. The kids were just so young. Like there's IBJJF rules and stuff. But I was like, if I just go out and like smash everyone, if I just like make it so like, to the point where if I put a black belt around my own waist, no one could question it. Like, who's going to come and take that black belt from me? It's like they're going to have to do it. So I think that's kind of what happened. I obviously went out double gold and master worlds at brown belt. That's the first masters comp I ever did. And honestly, it was an afterthought. I was there for Jiu-Jitsu Con. I was going to do Jiu-Jitsu Con, master worlds. It just so happened that they ran the divisions at the same time, and there was way more matches for me in master worlds. So I was like, I'll do that. And still didn't get promoted. That's fine. And I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going. I don't care about belts, honestly. I really don't. I talk about that a lot. it's just like, it's cool, but it doesn't affect. I would wear a beige belt and train forever. But then obviously medaling at Worlds at adults as well. You know, if I did that the next year and the next year, someone's gonna have a go at gi. So yeah, I think he just caved.
I agree with the belt thing. Like chasing belts isn't bad, but I feel that belt promotions are very, very important. And I think who you get it from matters as well. Not to everybody, but having pride in who gives you the belt, I think is really important. So I understand what you're saying with that, Josh. And for you to get it from Guy or at AOJ, and to be probably one of the only people who's not, as you say, a full-time student, it's pretty magical, man. It also comes down though to your attitude and all the hard work that you've put in as well.
Yeah, stubbornness, I think, is a big part of it.
And just
I'm not like
just knock the door down.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's like, it obviously like mattered to me so much that I pursued, or that I didn't accept it for everyone else.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that I didn't care about what color my belt was is also a reason why I got it. Because like, if I really did care about it and I had like these insecurities about whether or not I was going to get promoted or not, I probably would have just like accepted it from someone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the few things that like at a certain point I envisioned and I visualized, and it felt very real to me, and it obviously eventuated. So that was a cool thing in terms of giving me that lesson where, visualization, manifestation is a little bit like there's power to it for sure. It's not something I'm like excellent at, but when I do feel like I'm capable of doing it, like it tends to unfold.
And tell us a bit more about Kumite. We had Hope on not too long ago. That gym's still relatively new. You recently moved to a bigger location. Tell us about your involvement with that.
Yeah, so there's like a crew of us that all became sort of training partners through a period of time as a result of kind of like Levi was like the sort of central thing. He obviously had just had his like insane run in 2019, arguably pound for pound number one guy in the world at that time. And he was he was in Australia for a period of time, and obviously people were going and training with him. So you're talking like Ari, Nicholas Maglisic, Lucas Cannard, Declan Moody, all those guys were just sort of gravitated towards that training room. It was at Open Sparring at the time, just to train with Levi, because it's like, he's the guy having success. What's the secret? Turns out it's just hard work. So I started going training with those guys, and then became really good mates with Lucas. And then during COVID, Ari was living in Melbourne, and that was a difficult place. So he wanted to come up to Sydney because he knew we were all training together in a totally legal way. And he came up and got an Airbnb during his like quarantine period. And Lucas was like, "Oh, come along, meet Ari, come train." And so he introduced me to Ari, and we obviously got along really, really well. Became really good training partners. By that point, we moved our sessions over to Westside BJJ in Lidcombe, and we were just training every day. Like, it was obviously no one had gone back to work really. Everyone was still on like job keep or whatever it was at the time. So we would just show up to Westside at like midday, and we would stay there all the way till like 5 p.m. and then we'd just hang out and have food. And as the world went back into reality over time, me and Ari were just like, we shouldn't lose this. Like, we've got such a good little thing going on. We had so many people visiting us from all over Sydney to train with, and we were like really helping each other get better at this. And I just didn't want to lose it. So I was like, man, we should do something together. And that eventually became Kumite Jiu-Jitsu.
Your teaching, you've spoken about it a few times. When did you discover that you're a good teacher?
So I was like actually doing like private lessons for like Call of Duty back in the day when I was 15. I used to have people like PayPal me $20 to do one-on-one 1v1s with them on Rust and teach them how to quick scope and stuff. So I sort of always had that in me. But I think like the accelerated progress that I had, especially at like at Blue Belt, I even had like people like other blue belts asking me for privates, and I'd charge them like $30, and I would just like, I don't know. I sort of realized if people want to like have me teach them, I got to understand what I'm doing. And then I moved over to a Gracie Barra gym in 2016, and within a few months, they were asking me to start teaching classes, and so I got thrown into it really early as well. And then I got a full-time job teaching jiu-jitsu by 2017 and teaching a lot of privates. So there was obviously like a bit of a natural knack to it, but just through doing it as well, like I think also I became a teacher, like obviously not too long after starting it. So I still knew what it felt like to be a beginner. I still knew what it, like, I was in this weird moment where like I still had so much to learn, but like I knew a bit. So that helped, I think, being relatable.
And switching just back over to your competition, you've had a lot of competition success recently, and also on some of the events. How does your preparation differ for like a IBJJF tournament or a big tournament versus one of those events, like a show? How do you prepare?
It really doesn't. I just like I'm just always training. Like obviously, if I have like a no-gi match, I'll train more no-gi. If there's a certain rule set, like ADCC rule set, I'll think about that, and the way that I'll sweep people or something is a little bit different. If I'm in a cage, I'll do some work on the wall. But I'm still like, do we just train all the time, even if there's nothing going on? Comp training's on, 4 or 5 times a week. We show up, beat the crap out of each other. Yeah, I don't know. I think like the highest level training rooms, obviously like AOJ is the pinnacle. They just create an environment where nothing is harder than those sessions. No matter what comp you go to, it's like those sessions are harder than how you're going to like whatever you're going to face in competition. I'm lucky that I've been able to train with the best guys in the world, and that gave me a lot of confidence through time. It's like you can't just say like, oh, I'm training with these guys, so automatically I'm going to beat the guys that are in competition. That's not how it works. But there is an element of confidence where like if you have felt that pressure and the difference between the best guys, that fear factor gets removed, because nothing can be worse than that.
And what's next for you in 2026? What's coming up? Sorry, Brentos.
My next big thing I'm focusing on will be trials. I've never done an ADCC trials before. So I'm going to do the one in the Gold Coast in June. I'm pretty excited for that. It's obviously, that's kind of the big thing now. Everyone in Australia is just caring about trials. So the atmosphere for that comp seems pretty cool. It's in Australia. So yeah, I'm just going to, and most of what I've done this year so far has been no-gi. So I'm just going to keep that no-gi momentum, and I think I can do pretty well.
I think you can do pretty well too, mate. You do go up and down weight divisions too. Like, you don't really care who you're matched up against, right? So how do you manage that? Like, if you're taking on a bigger guy, will you try and bulk up, or you cutting down to middleweight or something? Do you try and sort of cut weight, or do you just sort of sit where you are?
Yeah, I really don't think about the weight too much. If you look on like, I guess my smooth comp or whatever, like I've been competing at like anywhere from lightweight to medium heavy every single year since like 2014, since I really started competing. I've always done the open weights, like always since I started competing. I think I just, wanted the bang for my buck when it came to those registration fees. So I always jumped in. So I'm used to competing against bigger people. I think also when I was like teaching, when I was like an instructor at Gracie Barra, like part of my job is every single like trial class, they would just put me with the trial class guy. And at the time at blue belt, I was more like closer towards the high 70 kilos sort of thing. And I get these like 110 kilo dudes that just wanted to beat the shit out of me. So I had to develop a way to train with bigger people. And it's a completely different sport. Like competing against someone in your weight class versus like the jiu-jitsu you have to use against someone that's 40 kilos heavier than you, it changes everything. So yeah, I had to kind of adapt that style, and that honestly helped me. Like having a bunch of guys just trying to street fight me their jiu-jitsu trial class really like helped me with the open class. As far as my weight, like obviously there's if I have to cut some weight, I know how to cut weight. I don't really think about bulking up or anything. I'm like the biggest foodie in the world. So my body like just naturally wants to be 100 kilos, like just through the volume of my hunger. So the training is the only thing that keeps me in check for that, really.
And what about injuries, Josh? Have you had any injuries, and how have you managed those?
I've only had like one really, really big injury where I had to have a shoulder reconstruction. So I had like a year off for that. Other than that, like, yeah, there's always something. Like, even for this subversion, like, I probably got in the 2 months leading up to subversion, I probably had 8 training sessions. Um, you just gotta like do whatever you can. Like, I had hand, foot, and mouth disease for friggin' 2 weeks. So I couldn't do anything for 2 weeks. That was like literally 4 weeks ago. So I had 2 weeks off, and then I came back and trained at a few sessions where I was just like so nauseous because I was like, had just been sick, and I was trying to, train with the best people. And then I got staph. So I actually like had staph during subversion. I had to go straight from subversion to the emergency room to get antibiotics because I was just like, fuck it, it was on the back of my head. I was like, I'm just going to push through this. I don't want to take antibiotics because that's going to make me feel nauseous. So I'll just push through and then I'll deal with it later. I think, honestly, I probably have like 6 good months a year and then 6 months where like spread over through the course of the year where I'm not training due to something, whether it's being sick, being injured. It's just, you just can't you can't let that time off, like, break your routine. Sometimes you'll have like a week off with an injury, but then it takes you another week to actually like get consistent again because you've broken your routine. I just go back as soon as I can, and I just try and get the work. Like, I obviously really enjoy it, so it's just I want to get back to it.
Have you got matches that you've had that really stick out, mate? Like, whether it's a title match, whether it's ones when you were, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt. Have you got a match that really sticks out, or a couple of matches where whether you won it, whether you lost it, whether you learned something, whether you came back from being behind, ones that stick out?
Yeah, definitely. I think they all stick. Like, there's memorable ones for different reasons. I remember I had like a no time limit match once it was like 2017. I think I went for like 38 minutes before I got like rear naked choked, I'm pretty sure, I can't even remember who it was, but it was like an Oz sub only thing for a belt. The first time I ever competed for like a title belt. I remember that same day actually, Bob Frias and Ethan Thomas, because there was like an under 80 and an over 80 division. They were in the over 80. Ethan Thomas, Bob Frias, they had like an 86-minute match or something ridiculous as well. So I guess that one stands out. On a similar time, I think it was actually the match before I lost that one. I had a match against Luke Martin, where he was kind of like taking my back the whole match. Like, he was like positionally fucking me up. And then I caught like a DAS in like the last second. And because it was like submission only, like that edged me the win. But I remember that match because obviously he had been my coach previously, like in 2013, he was like coaching me. And then that match actually sort of like rekindled us. And then I ended up like training with him again for a few years after that. So that one's pretty memorable. I remember like my first time I ever beat a black belt when I was like a blue belt or something. That was pretty cool. I remember I had like a match against, when I was so light as well. I was like a blue belt and I was like 76 kilos at the time. I had a match against Keller, who either like had just won trials or right before he had won trials, and like I friggin' gave it to him. Like, I think that was the match where a lot of local people like paid attention. Cause I mean, I still think I won that match, but it was like a really tight match against like a black belt champion, and I was like a skinny little blue belt.
He's around 90, isn't he? Around 90 kg.
Yeah, he would have been about 90 kilos at the time, I think. And he was like crazy strong. I remember the match started and he was like, he had a smile on his face and he just like tried to submit me inside his close guard with like a rib crusher. And he was like giggling and I just like, I took it and then I passed and got the mount. And then like the attitude really like shifted after that. And I was just like, oh shit, I'm winning. I got to hold on to this. And I was like freaking out in my head. I was like, it was just a very memorable match in that context. And then obviously like, you know, medaling at Worlds in the adult division was a huge thing for me. Like that's my probably like where that's like my most memorable one in terms of a feeling of accomplishment. I think the people that are in the sport that like IBJJF Worlds in the gi, I think is like the single hardest competition there is. So the respect of my peers for that one was pretty cool. There's so many. I remember my first gold medal at white belt. There's ones I'm forgetting, I'm sure, but they're all special in different ways.
And do you still game? Are you still gaming at all?
Barely. I actually I just bought an Xbox recently for the first time in like 6 years, and so I just got like Game Pass, and I've been playing Diablo on that. Just like that's a game that I played when I was like 6 years old. But nothing like competitively or seriously, just things that I can jump on for like an hour, or if I'm like sick or injured or something, I can like kill some time with some, don't go insane. But it's not like a passion like it was. Yeah.
What does it mean to you now, mate, to compete? Like, so you're now in the black belt division, right? So what does it mean for you to come up against, because you could come up against AOJ guys, you could come up against, now you are always going to be coming up the best guys in the world, you know? Mm-hmm. What does it mean to compete?
Yeah, I mean, you always come up against the best guys in the world, but you still do that in the color belts, you know what I mean? Like, in the color belts, the guys that win at purple and brown are going to win at black belt as well. Like, it's so that doesn't feel, honestly, that like I don't feel any more intimidated now than I did previously. I'm getting more opportunities against higher profile people, I guess, which is pretty cool, because then it's they're people that I like idolized and looked up to and revered, and now they feel very human and tangible and stuff. So that's kind of cool. What it means, like the main drive for me competing is just like to never get complacent. To always, I'm definitely like a better version of myself on a discipline level when I have something on the horizon, for sure. I think that's important. I obviously want to set a good example for my students as well. I want to like show them that like if they have goals as well, like I'm kind of doing the thing I'm telling them to do. You know, I think that's important. I'd say that's sort of the main drive these days. It's just to challenge yourself, really. Like, you just become better. And if you have something that has consequences, you're going to take it more seriously.
For sure. Yeah, we're nearly out of time, Josh. Thank you so much for giving up your time. You are a super busy man. As I said, recently been sort of all over the place competing and preparing for that. So we really appreciate you giving up this time. Brentos has just got a couple of pop quiz questions for you here just to finish it off. You can make the answers as short or as long as you like.
Hit me. Let's go.
All right, Josh. iPhone or Samsung?
iPhone.
See, he's a technical genius, this guy, and he's still gone with the iPhone. I don't know about this.
Okay, that's because you've never lived in California. They will literally bully you for having an Android. I had like girls not text me back because of the green text. I'm serious. Like I had a Google Pixel, and then I lived in California, and then I was like, I bought an iPhone and I'm never going back.
iPhones get the girls.
For real. It's a real thing.
Strength or flexibility?
Oh, what's that? There's that bendy guy on Instagram where it's like strength is flexibility. That's my cop-out answer.
I like that, actually. We haven't had that one. Pasta or rice?
Ooh, rice. I eat rice and eggs for breakfast every single day.
Dang. Steak or chicken?
Steak. I just went to the best restaurant ever. Have you guys heard of Bistecca in Sydney?
No.
If you're ever in Sydney, you got to book a month ahead. It's the best restaurant ever.
Is that the
Oh my
one where
God.
they cook over fire?
Yeah. Open fire in the middle of the thing. They take your phone away. The candles are made of duck fat and rosemary. You dip your bread in the candle wax. It's next level.
Oh, that sounds like me. I like the sound of it. Guard pull or takedown?
Guard pull for longevity.
Yes, correct. What's your favorite belt that you've been at, Josh?
I think. I mean, I was at. It's got to be brown belt, right? Because that's where I won everything. It'll be black belt eventually. If you ask me in a year, it'll be black belt.
Yeah. I like the sound of that. This is an interesting one for you. Private instructions or online instructionals?
Oh, they both have their place, but nothing beats a private class from someone that like actually has success with the technique that you're trying to learn. And here's a good example of this, right? I obviously had AOJ online, and I thought I knew all the techniques. All the techniques were exposed to me. But then let's say the wrestle up from X-Guard, for example. I thought I was doing it, and then I trained with Tynan, and I asked a question to Tynan, and he showed me a detail, and I'm like, oh, well, that detail is the whole technique. I could have watched that same video of him teaching it online 100 times, but until I felt him do it to me, I never would understand it. And now it's like my best technique, you know? So yeah, 100% private classes with someone that actually knows what they're talking about and they're a good instructor is the most valuable resource you have.
Mate, that's a good answer. I like that. We've got two more for you, mate. The first one, can you drive a manual car?
I haven't in about 12 years, so I don't know.
Push comes to shove. We'll say
But you learned at one stage how to, yeah?
At one point in time, yep.
Yeah. We'll go with yes. The second one, mate, this one worries me. Do you wear Crocs?
I had a Crocs phase. I did Crocs for a year because I was copying Ari, and then I got like back pain, so I ditched the Crocs. Crocs are gone, never again.
Oh, mate.
Right. I think he's passed. He's passed, Brentos. Yeah, we can release this episode. Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, Josh. As you said, you've been flat out since the start of January, and today's almost like, I won't say it's a day off, but it's the first time you kind of haven't had anything to go by. So we really do appreciate you giving your time up, as Kim said. Thank you for doing that. All the best for the rest of the year coming up with trials, Worlds, World Masters, all of the things that you might go over and compete at. And then hopefully we see you on a few more shows around Australia too. So we enjoy seeing you out there, mate. And we appreciate you doing it and flying the Australian AOJ flag. So
and Kumite Jiu-Jitsu, if you're ever in Sydney, pop in and see Josh and Ari and Hope and the others there. It's probably one of the top gyms, not just in Sydney, but in all of Australia, I think, in terms of the level.
And if you tell them the Roll or Die team sent you, then you get a Gatorade, I think. So I don't know.
Yeah, let's go with that. I'll honour that.
I was going to say a free Rashi, but we can't give everything away, can we?
I got no stock left, brother. They're in high demand.
There you go. Perfect. But that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Roll or Die. Thank you for telling your friends about it, for sharing it. Thank you for tagging all of your training partners and that sort of thing in our posts as well. We appreciate that too. But that's it for another episode of Roll or Die. Peace.
Thank you.